Talking GK with Conway.
On this show, I always want to welcome my new subscribers and explain a little bit about what this is. This is the talk show I create about my own audiobook, where you get to ask me some questions. I get to give you little scoops, some inner stuff. Today on the show, I have a new quiz. And as you can see behind me, I have a brand new logo. I'm going to talk about that, plus the new merch, and then also your viewer mail. And lastly, I wanted to be able to share something about someone who's very important to me. But I want to leave that tribute to the very end so we can have some fun. I always like to begin by saying thank you so much to my beautiful listeners and my new subscribers. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining the adventure. And of course, my Patreon subscribers, thank you so much for continuing to help me get closer towards the goal of getting this thing published. Thank you. So I reached out to an artist friend of mine, and she's super talented, and she specializes in graphics and doing logos and things. She did some fantastic work for me on my last project. So I told her a little bit about the Giant Killers, and folks, look what she came up with. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. She gave me a black and white one with silver. Now, as you can see, the triangles within there represent the triumvirate. I was telling her a little bit about the story, and she's so brilliant. She came up with this logo. So, some of you reached out to me about, what's up with the Giant Killer swag? Why can't I get any merch from you? And, what can I do for Christmas? So, folks, yes, you too can have one of these. Your very own, hey, Big Belly, get out of the way. Your own Giant Killers t-shirt. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? Plus, I used this awesome logo that Hope did, and I created a merch page. So you can get cups, you can get hoodies, you can get t-shirts, you can get stickers. Oh my gosh, and if there's something that you wanted that you can't get, you just let me know and we'll make it happen. But I'm officially on Teespring. I'm new to it, but now you have a place to go if you'd like to get your very own Giant Killers swag. Now, there is a way too for those of you who are entering the holidays and might be a little bit pressed for cash with spending it on all your loved ones and telling them how much you love them. So I will show you tonight, yes, we have a quiz, a way you can get your own piece of merch for free.
Viewer comments.
Time for viewer mail. Thanks so much, everyone, for allowing me to post my music on this page as well. I know it's sort of a YouTube thing. I'm still a new YouTuber. I'm new to the whole how to do stuff. But one of the things they always say is you should, do your thing and stick to it for your audience's sake. Well, just, I've been a musician forever, so I just have so much stuff, and it's my writing, it's lyrics and stuff. I just want to share it with you. So thank you for allowing me to do that. Though I so much love your comments about the Giant Killer, so here's where I respond. My first email was from Kerrigan Hughes. I love that name, Kerrigan. Sounds like you're an author yourself. Kerrigan writes, "Hello, about a month ago I stumbled upon your channel and audiobooks, and as I impatiently wait, sorry about that. I started going through some of your Q&As, and of course you mean Talking GK with Conway, which is where you are now. I haven't gotten through them all by any means, but you mentioned being able to see a manuscript if we just couldn't wait. So I suppose my request is yes, if that offer is still on the table." Yeah, folks, I've mentioned once, I'll mention again, The Giant Killers is a finished manuscript. If you'd like to know how the whole thing ends and you just want to have me send you a copy of my second revision, just ask at this email address, and I'll send it to you. I also have a glossary of names and and places if you get lost with where you are and what, and a copy of the known world map. Not the original. Somebody won that, so you can't have the original, but I have it scanned so you guys can see it. So yeah, absolutely. My only ask with anyone who receives a copy of the manuscript is I don't want a ton of these things just floating around out there, because the audiobook's actually my third revision, so you'll probably read things and say, whoa, he doesn't say that here, or oh, he took that out, or I'm doing stuff like that. So just enjoy it, keep it for yourself until the book comes out, but yeah, just don't get it floating around the internet. That's all I ask. Okay, next question. My next comment comes from Crispy Pixel, and Crispy had just read the first chapter, and she had a problem with this notion of Gail, Ermine's mother. Ermine described that Gail felt at peace finally with her situation, which was carrying Ermine. And she writes, yeah, no, as a person who has been sexually assaulted, I would never accept comfort or safety from my offender. The fact that you state the girl felt that circumstance now yielded a higher purpose was sickening to hear. I'm so sorry to hear that that's how you reacted to it. You say, sexual assault needs to stop being normalized in entertainment media. Now, I have to admit, Crispy Pixel, that I do welcome the email and the conversation, because I was certain when Ermine told me her story and she said this is what happened, and I wrote it down, I was certain that somebody was going to be like, you can't say that. You can't write a book like that. What? But here's the two things I would say is, I'm so sorry for what happened to you. What I wrote was in no way supposed to suggest that that's okay. In fact, if you look at the way Ermine reacts to it throughout the story, it's far from okay. She is not okay with it at all. I think what the issue you had with the line, which I understand, was Ermine actually trying to feel at peace with herself about her own origins. You got to remember, she's removed from this in that she is the product. She's not the person who was violated. So she said in the book, she felt as though her mother was finally at peace with her. So I agree with your notion that no one should say, oh yeah, okay, and have some kind of acceptable Stockholm syndrome about something like sexual assault. That's not how I felt about it at all. I think Ermine was just trying to say, hey, I feel really horrible about my own origins. I feel they're dirty, tainted, and maybe I'm just a mistake. But Ermine reminds me when I have my, conversations with her about her story, that she thinks for those people like yourself who might have encountered something like that, it might help you to hear that how the heroine overcomes it and doesn't just go and hide and feel ashamed. She conquers, and she kicks a lot of ass, and she improves a lot of people's lives because she carries on. I hope that is an acceptable answer for you. Thanks for listening.
Let's do the quiz.
So at the end of chapter 20, a very perturbed Dan says this.
He then turned his back to me and started marching away. Fergus intercepted him and offered a calming blessing.
Dan, be at ease. The battle is won. Didak is destroyed.
Dan turned to him with a strange look of disgust.
This
He shook his head.
is not Didak,
He said coldly. He then turned from the Great Seer and marched towards the ship.
So here's the quiz question. What did Dan mean when he said, this is not Didak? So he's sitting there, he's pointing at that pile of rubble, and he says, this is not Didak. What did he mean saying that? So see if you can get that answer correct. If you do, you can win your very own piece of Giant Killers merchandise, or whichever prize you choose. You know the rules. As always, if you want hints, you can comment below, and I'll try to give you some good ones. Lastly, on this episode, I'd like to make a tribute to a very, very special friend of mine. In fact, he's my oldest friend that I still know. I've known him since I was 6 years old. So, in order to do this tribute, a good friend of mine told me that you can reach out to someone who has passed away by talking to them as if they're listening to you. So I want to use this as an opportunity to do that. So, fire it off, fellas. Yeah, I'm going to describe, you see, my oldest friend Mark was also my childhood friend, so he was my D&D experienced person. So when I was first talking about writing and fictionalizing, my experience with that and creating a story about it, he was my first beta reader as well. So it was always one of the most exciting things for me when I would release a new chapter, or it would be to say, what did you think, or what do you think about the music here or that, So I no longer have that person, and unfortunately he was killed the day after Thanksgiving, tragically, in an accident. And I love you, brother. I miss you so much already. And I wanted to share a scene. For those of you who don't want to know, I'm actually writing the next book, the one after the Giant Killers, called The New Triumvirate. So I wanted to share a scene idea that I came up with Mark. So if you don't want to hear it, cool. But if you do, then just realize it might give some things away, I suppose. Day Your Mind described, Fergus kept asking her repeatedly, let me give you these notes so you can deliver them as proof to the people when you meet them. And she was like, no, you give them to those people. She doesn't understand this whole, why are we talking about you as if you're already dead thing. And anyway, so fast forward 30 years, she's got these notes in her hand that are for these people, and she finds out, of course, that she needs to go out and seek them out. That's her role in this. So she's a little bit curious, and so she decides, because she's a thief and she's kind of crafty, to pry open one of the notes, and so she can read what's in there. She's curious. She's a little bit sneaky, and so she can look at the note before she goes and just delivers it to some stranger. So she picks the one that's for Tarhichi Tull, who is this notorious badass warrior. I mean, he is essentially a brigand, and he's just so powerful. He's the best of the best in terms of fighters. And she looks at the note for him, and it says, "You will be beaten by a stick," and then named High Lord. And she's like, oh my God, Fergus, you're nuts. You wanted me to give this to this guy? He would have probably chopped my head off. What is this about, So when she finally gets to the point of trying to seek out Tarhichi Tull, they make, in their contentious way, she gets him to agree that if she can find someone who can beat his ass in a fight, he'll listen to her about this order and about all that stuff. And they laugh it off. So, of course, Ermine seeks out Ramthar. Now, this is 30 years later. So, during the Giant Killers, Ramthar was in his 50s. He was probably my age, about 52. And so we're talking 30 years later now. He's like 80-something. She doesn't even know if he's still alive. But she figures he would be the guy to talk to about finding the guy who's going to kick Tarhichi Tull's ass. So, and the reason I thought Mark would love this is because Mark's favorite NPC was Ramthar. He just thought that was the coolest character. He loved the whole thing about the instruction in chapter 17. He loved that. Anyway, so where was I? All right, so Ermine decides to go look for Ramthar. He is still alive. And in fact, you might recall back in chapter 15, I believe it was, 14 or 15, before Ramthar left, he had a meeting with Fergus. So the last 30 years, he has been training with the quarterstaff only. So he's living in peace in the mountains. He's become an old man with his quarterstaff, but because he's the master of all the martial arts, he is an absolute genius about how to use a quarterstaff in combat. So when Ermine finally comes and finds Ramthar says, she was going to try to explain, and Ramthar says to her, no, it's time. I was waiting for you. Gosh, it's been 30 years, whatever. So anyway, he then goes with her to go seek out Tarhichi Tol, the baddest ass warrior in the whole known world. And Ramthar shows up, this ragged old man with a staff, and of course Tarhichi Tol asks Ermine, he says, what is the meaning of this? We agreed, no magic. This was supposed to be an exchange of arms. And she says, yeah, I introduce you to Ramthar of Promethea. And there's a chill in the room, like, this guy's a legend. And here he is before Tarhichi Tol at 82 years old. And some of Tarhichi's people say, be careful. You don't want to do this. And he's like, what are you talking about? I am the baddest ass in the world. I'm 30-something, I'm in perfect shape, and I kicked everybody's ass. You don't think I can beat this old man? And they're like, but he's still concerned. He said, Ermine, you said there would be no wizardry. What is this? What are you trying to pull? And she suggests his magic users check the man, and he has no magic incantations about him. He's clean. So they agree to fight. So Ramthar decides to fight with his quarterstaff. So he fights out with Tarhichi Tol. Tarhichi Tol thinks he's going to lop his head off, but then suddenly he's able to do all kinds of incredible defensive moves, flip, knock him down, swat him in the ass, swat him in the balls. And finally Tarhichi Tol gets so angry, he charges at him, and Ramthar does this movement where he uses sort of like a jujitsu movement where he uses his weight and then flings him with the staff, and Tarhichi Tol the whole crowd is stunned. He is completely humiliated, being beaten by this old man. And so Ramthar comes up to him, taps him with his stick and says, you are now High Lord of the Order. And then Ermine gives him the note from Fergus, the Great Seer. Yeah, I just thought it would be kind of interesting just to have it be Mark, like taking the guy's ego down to nothing before he could even possibly consider being High Lord, because he was such a jackass before. Anyway, for those of you who were listening in, I hope you enjoy that little tidbit. I love to tease. I love to give you guys glimpses of the future, because I should say, for those of you who might have been disappointed by Game of Thrones and the fact that there was never an ending to it, I promise you, this has got the best ending ever. No, I mean, for real. I'm not going to take you all this way. Like, in fact, when I first set out to write The Giant Killers, chapters 20 through 28 was the book I was going to write. And then I kind of thought to myself, well, maybe I should do a little backstory. And then I started thinking, well, what is the story? I mean, is it, who's reading, and then I decided I wanted it to be somebody who lived a long time. Then I chose Ermine. Then I decided to give her a little bit of backstory. Suffice to say, the first 20 chapters was not part of my first intention. That was all just going to be a little bit of backstory, but she just kept talking. I don't know how else to put it. But now we're getting to the part, and you folks, I'm so sorry it's taken me so long to get back on the horse. This has been such an emotional year for all of us. But I just lost my father and my best friend in a couple of months, and in order to do this right, I need to be emotionally there to voice act and be able to really make it something special. So I apologize again for my lateness, but chapter 21 is being read as we speak. In fact, I finished the narration. Don Scouts discovered it first. They did. And I'm going to be doing the dialogue tonight, and I just wanted to reach out to you folks and just say thank you so much. I love you, and keep listening.
This has been Talkin' GK with Conway. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends.